Hello BookTube, welcome back to my 2024 library tour. This episode continues the tour of my history collection. We have finished with the headboard bookcase and are now moving on to the newest bookcase in my bookcase collection, the one behind me. So I'm going to start with the top bookshelf here and move down. The wall shelf you see up here, I will get to this weekend. So let's get going. So first up is La Serenissima, The Story of Venice by Jonathan Keats. I recently picked this up from Blackwell's in the UK. For a long time, I bought UK trade paperbacks and books from the UK through Book Depository, but early last year they shut down, so I moved to Blackwell's. And so far I've quite liked them, so yeah, but I haven't gotten around to La Serenissima yet. Next is Digging Up Armageddon, The Search for the Lost City of Solomon by Eric H. Klein. This is a history of biblical archaeology. And I have not gotten around to this one yet either. Sticking with books that I have not gotten around to, this is Empire of Horses, The First Nomadic Civilization and the Making of China by John Mann. I think I picked that up from Labyrinth Books. Next is Thomas Jefferson, A Life by Willard Stern Randall. Have not gotten around to this one yet. Sticking with American history, and the first of the books on this shelf that I have read, Ecstatic Nation, Confidence, Crisis, and Compromise, 1848 to 1877 by Brenda Wineapple. So this is the history of the United States from the death of John Quincy Adams to the end of the presidency of U.S. Grant. And it is amazing. I really enjoyed this book. Another book I have read on this shelf is Revolution in the Air, 60s Radicals Turn to Lenin, Mao, and Che by Max Elbaum. So this is the history of radical left-wing politics from the 1960s through to the 80s, if not early 90s. It is very dense, it is very difficult, and I am shocked that I managed to finish it. The next two books are biographies by Alison Weir. The first of which I have not gotten to, and that is The Life of Elizabeth I. So this is a biography of Queen Elizabeth I. I have read Weir's biography of Eleanor of Aquitaine, which is really good. I quite enjoyed it. Next is The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee, Native America from 1890 to the present by David Truer. So this is a history of Native Americans from the end of the 19th century through to the 20th century and into the present. And it is quite good. Next is Empire's Crossroads, A New History of the Caribbean by Carrie Gibson. I really want a history of the Caribbean, and I still want a history of the Caribbean. This one just really didn't do it for me, and I think I bailed on it. Next is a book that I neglected to get to for, and it still has a bookmark in it, Life in a Medieval City by Joseph and Francis Gies. Next is an old ex-library copy. This is The Holy Roman Empire by Trevor Bryce, and it is from the Wicklow-McLean County Library. So they de-accessed it probably about 10 or so years ago. Probably more than that. Returning to royal biographies, this is Marie Antoinette, The Journey by Antonia Fraser. So a biography of Marie Antoinette that I picked up for the first book in this year's book club STD from Steve Donahue. And it's okay, but at a certain point I lost interest in the book and ultimately putting it aside. So yeah. Although I was dreading getting to the French Revolution because that was going to it was going to enrage me. But anyway, next is Richard III by Charles Ross, I believe. I need to remove that stamp. Yes, Charles Ross. Next is another royal biography, Catherine de' Medici, Renaissance Queen of France by Leone Frida. This is quite good. I'm tempted to pick up a few more biographies of Catherine de' Medici, but this one is good. I also have Leone Frida's biography of Catherine de' Medici's father-in-law, Francis I, the maker of modern France. And I have a biography of Matilda, Empress, Queen, Warrior by Catherine Hanley, which I have not got to yet. Next is A Game of Queens, The Women Who Made 16th Century Europe by Sarah Griswold. So this is a history of the 16th century and how various aristocratic and royal women gained power and influence throughout this century, from regents to queens regnant. Next is Our Noteworthy Republic, The Dispossession of Native Americans and the Road to Indian Territory by Claudio Sant. This is Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World by Jack Weatherford. So this is in part a biography of Genghis Khan and in part a history of the Mongol Empire during his life and shortly thereafter. It's okay, but there are some issues with the book. Next is Vanguard, How Black Women Broke Barriers, Won the Vote, and Insisted on Equality for All by Martha S. Jones. So this is a history of political activism and social activism on the part of African American women from the 19th century through to the present. And it is quite amazing. This was a very good book. This is Empires of the Indus, The Story of a River by Alice Albinia. Stony the Road, Reconstruction, White Supremacy, and the Rise of Jim Crow by Henry Louis Gates, Jr. So this is the story of how after the Civil War and after the emancipation that gradually over the decades since then, African Americans found themselves slowly being, if not re-enslaved, but having sort of legal barriers and legal oppression still imposed upon them in Jim Crow. And so this is how that came about. And in that way, this book is quite infuriating, but moving. Oh, I don't have enough room for a small book up here. Next is Nicholas and Alexandra by Robert K. Massey. So this is a dual biography of the last Tsar of Russia and his Tsarina. And finally, the last book on this shelf is Eagle Against the Sun, The American War with Japan by Ronald H. Spector. So that concludes this topmost shelf of the new bookcase. I will be back tomorrow with the second shelf here. So till then, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.